For more on these recent strikes, former Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army and Senior Fellow for Defense Priorities, Daniel Davis, is here to discuss. Thank you so much for your insight as we're beginning a new year. And I think I just want to start there. Here we are heading into 2023. What can we expect to see on the ground in Ukraine as we continue to see both sides really not seeming to back off in any way?
Yeah, Molly, there's really no doubt that there's no one's even thinking about talking about negotiated settlements. In fact, you actually have both sides saying, yeah, we'll talk a negotiated settlement as long as you surrender to the other side. And of course, neither side is going to do that. Both sides think that they have what it's going to take going into the new year to win this on the ground, and both sides are going to try. And unfortunately, that means that the people of Ukraine are going to lose, really, regardless of how this comes out, because there's a lot of fighting that's about to come down. You see that Putin has actually admitted to having about 150,000 additional troops that are in the process of being trained up on their side of the border and are probably getting ready to be employed in here. And you actually have the Ukrainian general staff, as well as their president, saying that they expect the same thing. So in any way, we believe the fighting is going to go get pretty intense, potentially within just a matter of weeks as the weather really starts to get colder over there. And as I wrote in 1945, just a couple of days ago, almost no matter how the winter battles go, this war is probably not going to end anytime soon. It's probably not at least halfway through 2023. And I think that there's a lot of dark days ahead for the people of Ukraine, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and President Volodymyr Zelensky there from Ukraine has talked about Russia using winter as part of their battle, as a weapon in a sense. But in recent days, in the past week or so, Russia has seen a significant number of casualties. Now, the numbers are a little unclear, each side making different claims as to those numbers. But how does that play on Russian soil? Because each of those numbers represents a family that has lost someone. And here you are talking about a winter offensive that is about to be a big offensive, which potentially could certainly lead to losses, more losses on both sides. But in Russia, when do the people step up and say that, and put an end to this?
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen anytime soon. In fact, you can see a number of actually very credible polling sources show that Putin's priorities or his high marks still remain in the upper 70s to low 80s because people believe in him. And the reason they do is because Russia has been very successful of characterizing this not as a war of choice for Putin, as we certainly do, but as a war foisted on him by NATO expansion and the fact that it's, in their view, basically all of Western Europe against them. And so it's, the world against us. And so they're drawing together. They're using lots of imagery from their great patriotic war, World War II. And, it's our turn to make sacrifices and everything is against us, our way of life. And right now, that's working in Russia. The people do seem to be behind this. And I think that it's going to depend on what happens in the first quarter of 2023. If this winter offensive has success, then I think the people in Russia will get even more behind it. But if it fails, if they don't succeed, then you may start to see problems with the population behind Putin, and that's really what we're going to be watching for.
Yeah, the United States has reaffirmed a commitment to continuing to help Ukraine. The Ukrainians talked about the success of HIMARS here just in recent days. Your thoughts on how the U.S. is contributing and how vital that is?
Well, look, there's no question about it. If it hadn't been for the United States specifically and the leadership that we played, in all probability, Russia would already have won because it's the millions of artillery shells, the tens of thousands of anti-aircraft missiles, anti-tank missiles that we provided that is keeping them afloat. The problem is that Russia also has its own arsenal. In fact, they have their own domestic production. And as we've been hearing, claims that Russia's going to run out of missiles all the way back to March. They never do. And they continue to have this relentless onslaught. So it's going to be really a matter of attrition as to who could sustain the losses the best. And right now, that's an open question. We don't know. But again, it just comes back to so much harm being caused on the people of Ukraine.
Shifting to North Korea now, Kim Jong-un kicking off the new year, of course, with another weapons test, another missile test. He has promised to exponentially expand the nuclear arsenal there and also to continue working towards more intercontinental ballistic missiles. Your thoughts on what can America do to rein in North Korea at this point?
Yeah, the most important thing to understand right off the bat is that our security is assured no matter what. We are safe, And it's because it's not like that Kim Jong-un is going to use this and suddenly go on an offensive attack and attack the United States, because to do so would be suicidal. And that's one of the things that's important for us to convey to them, to Pyongyang, is that, look, our deterrent is unwavering. Our commitment to our treaty ally in South Korea is rock solid. That includes both domestic or conventional as well as nuclear forces. And if he crosses any of those lines, he can count on a destructive response. But if he doesn't, then we need to try and lower the tensions, use diplomacy to give him any kind of an off-ramp and a reason not to be so fearful that he's going to get attacked, that he expands this, and to maybe offer some other potential economic incentives, some developmental incentives with his South Korean partners or his countrymen there, and anything to lower the tensions, because any kind of use of military force would be bad for us, bad for South Korea, and ultimately bad for the region.
All right. Former Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis.